Sup? So this morning I was reading a paper. It's called New Insights on the Stradivari Choristo Mandolin. For those of you who don't know what a mandolin is, it's basically like a little fucked up guitar. This is what my mandolin looks like. It is an F-style from Ashbury. It's pretty fucked up. It's a little bit evil, and I love it dearly. I could not imagine what my life would be like without it. But that's not why I'm here today. It's a little bit why I'm here today, but it's not entirely why. So the idea behind this study is they want to analyze an old mandolin made by a guy called Antonio Stradivari. If that name sounds familiar to you, it is because he is the guy who made a bunch of really famous violins. Most violins that are produced nowadays are produced in a manner very similar to the way that he did them, because everybody listens to a Stradivarius violin and goes, "Oh shit, nice." Stradivari also made some plucked instruments. He did not only make the bowed ones, so we want to look at those and basically analyze, hey, what did he do and what takeaways can modern mandolin makers and guitar makers take away from that? So there are only two known mandolins that he made that still exist. One of them is in a private collection somewhere, and the other one is in a museum. And they took the one from the private collection and analyzed it using a bunch of spectrometers. Essentially, they pointed a camera at it and took pictures of it in a bunch of different ways. For starters, they used a Nikon camera, and it does specify that in the study. In fact, it not only specifies what kind of camera it is, but where it was produced, which I think is pretty funny. They do this in a lot of studies so that if somebody does this again and gets different results, then it calls into question how this is. But if somebody changes like one or two variables and they get similar results, then we don't have to worry about that quite as much. I do find it a little bit comical, though, that they've decided to outline that this camera is specifically from Minato, Tokyo, Japan, because like, you know, what if we decide to do this again, but we use a Canon? You know, could get different results, who knows? Or, you know, a Nikon that's produced next door from that place. It's got to be reproducible. And they've shown a bunch of light on it. They've shown a softbox lamp, some LEDs, a Philips TLD 36 watt BBL IPP low pressure mercury tube. Mercury lamps are just an old kind of lamp. The idea is that you discharge gas and then you run a current through it and that produces light. I really like the Wikipedia page for it because when I was looking up mercury vapor lamp, apparently there is a character from an anime called Mercury Lamp. And I just appreciate that disclaimer has to be put there in case people are looking for this anime character called Mercury Lamp and they got confused when they saw actual mercury lamps. I also think it's pretty funny because they have a whole section about how mercury lamps produce white light with a bluish-green tint due to mercury's combination of spectral lines. This is not flattering to human skin color. Human skin color is its own page on Wikipedia. And so such lamps are typically not used in retail stores. So in case you were wondering, why are you in a retail store and you are not surrounded by mercury? It's because it's not flattering to your skin. When I worked retail, my first thought was always to the customer's skincare routine, which I think would have served me pretty well if I worked in like Sephora or something. But I was at Dick's Sporting Goods, so a lot of the time people would just rub sandpaper on their face. It was actually pretty grim. So they found some light sensors, they surrounded everything with gold mirrors. You're supposed to use gold mirrors in these sort of things because gold mirrors improve something's ability to reflect infrared light. And then they took a bunch of pictures. And after they took a bunch of pictures, they analyzed those pictures and they found, that's me doing a drum roll. I don't have any like drum sticks. And thanks to all of the science that they did to it, they found out that this thing is old. That's right. In case you didn't know, this several hundred years old mandolin is pretty old. So essentially they get these readings of light, and from that they can extrapolate what chemicals were used, or at least what elements can be found in the mandolin. So as you can see here, we've got some graphs, some beautiful graphs that are like, hey, look at the stuff that we found in this thing. Isn't that weird? Isn't that wild? And using these graphs, they can more or less ascertain what was used in certain areas and what certain things might represent. For example, they talk about how in the top plate, they found some manganese in combination with iron, which suggests the use of umber earth pigment. And they also found some things like nickel and zinc and chromium, but it was only detected on the top plate, not in the shell. So that might have something to do with pollutants. Overall, they can find out that Stradivarius did not really do anything that special with this mandolin that he did not already do with violins. I think Stradivarius was just like, I'm making an instrument, I'll just make it the same as all the other instruments, which I think is really funny because he is well regarded as one of the masters of his craft, and even he can be a little bit lazy. He just used the same techniques that he did for a violin, so he must be like, oh yeah, people are gonna bow this, right? And then somebody else is sitting there like, oh yeah, totally, man. See, look, I'm bowing it right now. And Stradivarius is there like, oh, thank God. I was so worried you guys were gonna do like something weird, like strum it maybe, or like play it plucked. Like I know you wouldn't do that. I was just kind of worried sometimes. And everybody was like, yeah, don't worry about that, Stradivarius. Don't you worry, we'll be okay. And then the second his back is turned, they're all like... But overall, I do think it's really cool, like the amount of effort that goes into determining this sort of thing. Like I say, oh, they found out that Stradivarius did the same thing that he did earlier, but the only way that we're able to know what he did earlier is because of similar analysis like this. A lot of people aren't used to the fact that like sometimes knowledge is lost. I think especially in the internet age, we're sort of used to not being able to find knowledge, but we assume that it exists somewhere. And that's not always the case. Sometimes you do have to go and take extraordinary measures in order to figure out what people used to do or how things used to be or something along those lines. And I think it's amazing that we have this technology that enables us to do that now. I think it's also really cool that these are some things that like people who currently make mandolins and guitars can learn from. People can look at the compounds that he used and figure out, okay, so he probably used like this kind of oil. He kind of used this kind of resin. How can we recreate that with modern materials that will maybe last better or produce a better tone or something along those lines, which is also fantastic. So yeah, this is just a cool story. Wanted to share it. Bye.